Alrighty. So I cut that first video off kind of quick because if it goes like over 9 minutes, it can't upload it. Anyways, so I hope that the first video is fruitful. I hope that the John Green video, you understood it. Like I said, usually we watch that on the front end of the, like before my conversation, so that I'm not the first, it's not the first time you hear it when you hear it from me. And he talks really fast, and he's really funny, and he says jokes, and yada yada, and it's easy to get lost. But now, hopefully watching that video, you actually understood like everything he said. And if you didn't, I would really recommend, if you finish this video and still have time at the end of class, I would recommend going back and watching it again or watching it tonight. It is a great review because he takes the approach of looking at what the Republic was meant to be and how it died, right? Again, collapse the Republic means we're shifting away from people power. He talks about how expansion sets the course for the eternal change of the direction of the Roman Republic, how they're going to head to empire. He makes that statement at the end about how it all had to do with the concentration of power in the hands of one man. That man was always a general because they loved generals because of success and because of money and wealth and safety. And so it basically talks about how Rome, their values change and they decided to become an empire. And that sounds a lot like our conversation too. So anyways, the whole conversation, this whole quiz, this whole section, birth of the Republic, collapse of the Republic. Julius Caesar represents the collapse, the official death of the Republic. Why? Because when he takes power, all the power is in his hands, meaning none of it is with the people, right? All the power is in his hands officially when he is named dictator for life. You can backtrack to when he, in 49 BC, when he walks in and by definition, military overthrow, a military coup to overthrow the city of Rome. Not an ounce of bloodshed, and the people love him, but that is the definition of a military overthrow, and now you have a military dictator, right? Anyways, the Republic for just a few years was hanging on for dear life. And by 45 BC, you got a dictator for life in Julius Caesar, right? So, anywho, we see all the power concentrated in the hands of one man, death of the Republic, right? So why do the senators kill Julius Caesar? Some of these guys plot to kill him because they're trying to save the Republic, right? John Green, again, addresses that, and he says, was the Republic even worth saving? And did Julius Caesar destroy it? I would make the case that the Republic was not worth saving. As we talked about on Friday, think about in 59 BC where the Republic was. The Republic was destroyed. It was corrupt. It was the gap between the rich and poor. The poor people, the majority of society, did not even have a voice in the government because fairly elected politicians are a thing of the past. Now, all of a sudden, whoever has the most money is in the power. So anyways, the Republic is collapsing. It's in terrible shape anyway. So the idea of saving the Republic is more like senators selfishly trying to save their power because if you have a dictator, the Senate has no power. Anyway, so you see in this document right here, I'm not going to go crazy in depth with this, but I want this to be a really good resource for you to be able to understand this perspective of senators trying to save the Republic and fans of Caesar pointing out the opposite, right? And I want to look at a few things. Number one, you have two, in this story, you got kind of two people and a group of people, right? You have Brutus, who talks first. He was a senator. He was a friend. He was a very dear friend of Julius Caesar. So he was like, Julius Caesar was his mentor. But then while Julius Caesar's in Gaul, Brutus gets more powerful, and he becomes an enemy of Caesar. He does not like him. So by the time Julius Caesar comes back, Brutus is one of the ones that conspires to kill him, and he does. Then you have all these plebeians. These plebeians are a group of men. Plebeian is the lower class, but they're government officials. They're government leaders. Remember, they're most likely part of the tribal assembly. Meaning they were elected from the lower class in the government. So they're plebeians, but they're government officials. And then you have Antony. Antony is a politician, very good friend of Caesar's, fan of Caesar's, military background, but he's a fan of Caesar, so he's going to come in. So first, I'll just dive right in, and we'll keep it really simple. Brutus, what's his point? I want you to think about this actively. Like if I were to ask you in class right now, what is Brutus's big point? Think about that for a second. Brutus says, here's why I killed Caesar, right? And I want you to know the quote that I would underline if I were you, that I would highlight, is when he says right off the bat, Brutus is the one who's saying, it's great that we killed Caesar. Caesar was a tyrant. He was ambitious. He took all the power for himself. We needed to kill him, etc. Anyways, and so he starts off by saying, it's not that I love Caesar any less. He's like, trust me, guys, I loved Caesar. I loved him. He was a great guy. I loved him. However, he says in the middle, he says, it's not that I loved Caesar less, it's that I loved Rome more. What does that even mean? It's not that I loved Caesar less, it's that I loved Rome more. That's like this really high ideal, like, I loved Rome more. In other words, that validates the idea that I loved Rome more. In his mind, Rome embodies the Republic, so I love the Republic more. And then he says, I killed Caesar in the name of our Republic values, right? So we get that. And then he literally says, would you rather Caesar be living and we go to our graves as slaves, or would you rather Caesar be dead and we all live as free men? So he equates Caesar's rule with the senators being slaves. Obviously, they're not slaves, but he's implying that Caesar would have all the power. And he says he's ambitious. His ambition, for that, I killed him. Ambition typically is not necessarily a bad word. It has multiple definitions. If you are ambitious in life, that's a good thing, right? It's the opposite of lazy, right? You're ambitious. You want to make good grades. You want to go to a good college. You want to get a good job. You're self-driven, right? You're ambitious. You want to be high up in your job. Like, that's totally legit. It also can carry a very prideful connotation, and in this case, it's very prideful. He was ambitious. He was trying to get to the top. In this case of what? He wanted all the power for himself. That's what he says he killed him for, right? And if you notice the plebeians' response, they're like, yeah, we love you, Brutus. Like, you've done a great thing. Caesar was a punk. He was a jerk. He was a tyrant. He was a selfish dictator, right? Get him out. We kind of see that theme over and over again, right? They're like, save Brutus, you're the man. Right? Anyways, so we see that. So then Antony walks in, and he's actually carrying Caesar's body. And so it's kind of like a funeral thing. Brutus is like, man, let Antony talk. Let him speak. And Antony basically steps up, and he says, again, simply put, Antony offers a counter. He says, Brutus is a great guy, so I'm not going to bash what he said. And, he said he's ambitious, right? So I'm not going to cry. But Antony points out three things, and he says, but think about this. Did you benefit from the wealth that Caesar brought to you? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, think about the poor. When the poor wept, did not Caesar weep also? Side note, remember he did a lot of reforms that actually really benefited the poor? And they're like, yeah, wait, you're actually right. And then he says, and actually, I literally tried to give him a crown, and he refused it 3 times. Is that ambitious? And the guys are like, wait a second, no. And the tides slowly start turning, and they have several conversations. He's like, I've got this will of Caesar's. If you read it, you would just cry because you'd be so sorrowful of how generous he was. And the will in the end says, like, I'm going to give you guys all my money and everything, and he's super generous. And he says they lay him down on the ground, his dead body, and they look at all these like wounds, and he's like, man, let the wounds speak for themselves. And they're like, man, this is the wound. This is the wound where Brutus stabbed him. Like, what a traitor! Like, Brutus was like Julius Caesar's dearest mentee, and how could he betray him the way that he did? And and then this wound speaks to just betrayal. And the tides start totally shifting, and the people are like, wait a second, Brutus sucks. Like, what the heck? Brutus, like, wait. Julius Caesar was the man. We loved him. Oh my gosh, he's so great. Down with Brutus. And the play literally ends, or this scene, literally ends with them saying, my favorite line is they literally say, let's go, we'll burn his body in the holy place and use the brands to set the traitor's house on fire. And they're literally talking about reverently burning Caesar's body, like cremating him, and then using the ashes, the brands, to light Brutus and all the other traitors' houses on fire. And so you see here, why are we looking at this story to wrap this up and to wrap up the entire section? Is you see this idea of, first of all, you see the value set of the Romans changing. They love generals. They love their affections and their values lie in the hands of successful generals. There's so many reasons why they love Julius Caesar, even though the idea of an all-powerful dictator totally counters their whole values from the beginning. What was the Republic meant to be? Power's in the hands of the people. It's impossible for one guy to step up and take power. Therefore, we have checks on power. Now we're right back where we started, right? Same kind of rules when Tarquin the Proud had all the power. So on the spectrum of power, we're right back on the side of one-man rule. However, anyway, so you see this unfold. You see their people's values change. You see how the Republic had gone to complete, had just been totally destroyed. Moving forward, the senators are going to kill Caesar in the name of saving the Republic, but it's going to launch into civil war because everybody loved Julius Caesar. And so it's going to have all these defenders of the Republic versus all these supporters of Julius Caesar. It's going to get really messy. And so you see the Republic is totally out the window. Did Julius Caesar destroy the Republic? Well, literally, you could say yes, in the sense that when he is responsible for the official death of the Republic, because he's the first guy. You definitely want to make note of this. He's the first guy since the start of the Republic who officially has every ounce of power in his hands. He's the first guy to be named dictator for life since 509 BC. 450 years later, we have a dictator for life. Yes, the Republic is officially dead. Was he responsible for the death of the Republic? No. And we would make the case, look at your Collapse of the Republic notes. Ever since Rome started expanding, their whole value set changed. They're willing to compromise their checks on power, their core principles, in the name of generals they love. They're willing to compromise decentralized government and people's power in the name of generals they love, in the name of wealth and safety. And we see this theme over and over and over again. That's what I want to leave you with. And I want you to go back to your Birth of the Republic notes, Collapse of the Republic notes, look at Julius Caesar's story, and I just want you to see how Julius Caesar embodies the death of the Republic, but how really the Republic was collapsing for a long time before that. So walk through your study guide. It matches perfectly with your notes. Call me if you have any questions. Miss Middleton, or excuse me, Miss Amos has my number, and you literally can have her call me if there's anything crazy confusing. Email me tonight, and that'll be and we'll be good, right? But you guys have got this. It's everything we've been doing as a review so far. Why did the Republic start? What was it meant to be? Checks on power, etc. Why did it begin to collapse? Expansion, etc. And how does Julius Caesar embody the death of the Republic? Because now all the power is in the hands of one guy. Was he responsible for killing the Republic, though? I would argue no, as John Green did, and I hope you would too, because you see that for the last 200 years, since the Punic Wars, the Republic's been going by the wayside. All right? With these 3 videos, you should be totally set to absolutely dominate this quiz tomorrow. I'm proud of you guys. I love y'all. Email me tonight with any questions.